Welcome back, everyone. We just watched the first match where Core took the win, but now it's time for the second match, and it's going to be between TSM and YFP. And it's two teams where they find themselves in different situations. One made some pretty big changes. The other one has been keeping a little bit of the same, has been trying to keep the groove, has had the time to scrim and get used to this roster for quite some time, Roy. So I want to see how that's going to play out. But because we had a couple matches happening at the same time as our first one with Core, let's take a look at how the bracket is looking right now, because if you lose one of these matches, you're gone.
Yeah, I mean, so shout out to Fluffy Aimer securing that win 2-0. Core 2-1. We watched that live on the broadcast, and now we still have Blinn and Sad are still combating right now. That would be really fun to watch. We've been yapping so much, we haven't even really caught up with the other matches, but this looks awesome so far.
Yeah, interesting to see how if Sad can close this out. I mean, that Blinn roster coming in through the relegation tournament, we haven't seen much from them in Challengers, but if you look at some of their collegiate results, they're obviously a team that's been swinging at the fences. So
I also really do like Sad. I feel like they get, and they have gotten a little too silly, right, with some of the compositions, but I think this is a pretty solid roster. I want to see if they are, like you said, able to close it out. But now we get the chance to talk about the match that we are going to see on this broadcast, and it's going to be TSM against YFP, trying to see who's going to be that team facing the big one, the final boss almost of M80. So it's going to be two teams, as we mentioned, with specifically a YFP that made some roster changes. Now you're going to have Will and Jake playing on it, and a TSM that has some known names of this tier 2 since last year, Roy, and that are trying to close it out together. They have had some good matches, some matches where they had a lot to work on, but now it seems like they look very solid, and I honestly really like the individual pieces that they have.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, TSM is my dark horse pick of the mid-season cup. I feel like they have the all-star lineup. They just needed that extra time to just gel, mesh, get on the same page, make sure everyone's comfortable with their new role, specifically Seven. He's on a completely brand new role, and I think they're about to show us something special.
yeah, I really like this lineup. We talked about individuals and how they can add together to become a team, and this is a team that has the individuals. They've been working all season to put this together. They were formed kind of late, right before the season started, so they didn't really have that time to gel, but now they've been cooking, right? It's been simmering in the oven. I really like Poise as an IGL. He has a lot of experience going back in plenty of teams and leading them up to the top, so he's someone I trust at that IGL position, that captain role, to really bring these guys together and bring the best out of them. And it's the age-old question: when does TSM play? And the answer is in about 10 minutes.
Yeah,
and I mean, on the other side as well, for the YFP side, like obviously they lost Jonah and Bones, and they picked up Will and Jake. And Will is like a completely sort of, it's kind of like a big question mark. I was like, what are the roles now on YFP, right? Like, is Penny still playing the duelist? Is Will on the duelist? Like, what are the roles looking like, and how much time have they really had to kind of like practice and like make sure they're ready for the mid-season cup?
And for the side of TSM, I want to talk about a guy in specific, and that's going to be Sim. Sim has had some really, really good performances. It seems like that guy has to be and has been performing to what you expect of a duelist, the difference maker, the one who's opening up the rounds. But then things get a little bit messy. They did take those 2-0 wins against Dobros before the Glazers and Winthrop University, but the other matches just didn't go their way. They couldn't really find a footing. And this guy, even though he was performing to a pretty high level, to a pretty high standard that we put him on, it seems like a lot more what the team has to click, Psycho, in order to get the win today.
Yeah, I mean, this guy is he's a beast, and he's someone who's been on the come up for a very long time. He's been on a lot of people's radar, and I think he's really showing what everybody has seen in him for such a long time, right? And as this team gets more and more cohesive, they're figuring out how to enable each of these individuals. And Sim is one of these guys who, with the right guys around him, the right kind of people supporting him, he's flying into these bomb sites. He's taking these duels and he's winning them.
something that you absolutely need for a tournament that doesn't allow pretty much for any bigger mistakes. So that is going to be Sim on the duelist role. And as you were saying, Roy, we don't really know exactly how it's going to go down when it comes to roles on the other side of YFP with the new additions. But I'm very excited to see how Jake is going to perform here. This player comes from the tier 1 and is one of the only, honestly, players that we have that came from the tier 1 to the tier 2, had some time off, was giving some thought about what he wanted to do for his future. He decided to keep playing Jin's YFP, and he's a guy that we saw last year under Cloud9 doing so well and being the player that we didn't really know much about, coming from collegiate, coming from the tier 2, and proving to be very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Cloud9 is the taketh away and giveth away kind of team right now, because they stole away moves from YFP in the beginning of the season in stage 1, and that kind of left them in shambles, to be honest. And now they've given them Jake as a sort of a consolation prize. So they get Jake, which in the spike, for anyone that watched the spike down earlier, that I was mentioning the fact that we're sort of entering this like era of superstar controllers, right? And players that can really like pop off and have a lot of X factor in the controllers. And then now they're getting Jake, who is that person. Like, he is that guy who's totally down to just brawl around his smokes. He's totally around to just like solo anchor bomb sites and go for his, right? Like, he is that player. And I think YFP has kind of upgraded their roster with these players.
They are players that, again, have been proving themselves at the top from last year to the beginning of this year. And when you bring that experience to a team that is still trying to figure out what they want to do, Psycho, it just seems like this can be the run, this can be the tournament for YFP.
Yeah, I mean, bringing in like Roy said, a superstar controller, a fragging controller, one of these guys who's going to come in and actually drop bombs on this role. You know, it's something that traditionally, you know, in the past couple of years, controller role has been looked at as a low fragging role, just a support player, but that's just not the case anymore. So guys like this, Jake coming in, could be an X factor for this team. He comes in and he offers a lot of firepower without taking away, you know, the duelist role, the initiator role, these traditional fragger roles that, you know, otherwise they already have, you know, good players in that are dominating. So this is an extra little bit of spice, the cherry on top for this team that might set them over the top and give them, you know, the perfect setup for a strong run in this bracket.
We're seeing the controllers, the IGLs having higher and better performances than we've seen before in Valorant, and I feel like that's a pretty big deal because we love seeing these players shine and get their time. It is always a duelist, it is always sometimes the initiator, how they set up each other, but when a controller or even a sentinel is able to stronghold the side and get those kills, get an ace, get a 4K, it looks really good. And if there's a guy that can do it, it's gonna be Jake. We're gonna see again how those roles are gonna look like, but first let's jump into the map select. Let's see where we're gonna be headed to, because that can also depend on how many of those great moments from the controllers, the IGLs, the Sentinels we get to see today. And Roy is going to be Bind, Lotus, and Sunset.
Wow. All of them are Raze maps too. So there's literally no Jet. I'm actually very, very curious to know who's gonna be playing the Raze right now for the YFP side.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and even more interesting, I mean, TSM letting Bind go through in this veto. I'm pretty sure they haven't played it at all this season. So this will be our first look that we're getting of this new TSM roster on Bind. And it's interesting to see what they've been cooking up. It's very possible they've been practicing it for at least a couple of weeks, if not the whole split, and you know, just saving it as kind of a pocket pick. So interested to see what they'll bring to the table here.
It's been some time since we've seen these two teams play, even for the side of YFP. They played a week 1 against Thinking Man. They lost that map of Bind where Penny was playing that Raze. They were playing that standard composition on Bind. And we did talk about it before. We're seeing, since that week 1, a lot has changed. The meta has changed on this Bind. We've seen the Gecko play out more. And it is just one of the possibilities that we have there, especially because taking that loss against Thinking Man is that team that got relegated, Roy. So it's a team that we're not seeing anymore. And if you need to step it up, it's a big step between losing to Thinking Man to now trying to win against TSM.
Yeah, I mean, both of these teams also like desperately need this win if they really want to challenge the Ascension slot too. Because I mean, TSM finished 7th to 8th with 4 points. YFP finished 9th to 10th with 2 points, right? So like these teams both really need this win. They're gonna have to show us something really special right here, and I feel like it's kind of in the favor for TSM, right? Because we talked about the roster changes for YFP side, and there just hasn't been enough time for YFP to develop an insane map pool. So I think there will be some holes, but I think they have the individual power to compensate for it.
I agree, and I definitely think that this is one of the maps where they should be able to play a little bit more natural, pug it out, if you will, right? You know, we talked about the impact that a superstar fragging controller player can have, and this is one of these maps. You know, players who can come in on bind and be an absolute force to be reckoned with on the brimstone, that puts your team over the edge.
In a map like Bind, it's just one of those that can be so explosive. As Roy, you mentioned, even the map pool that we have, the Bind, Lotus, and Sunset, they can depend a lot on those individual mechanics and individual momentum of those duelists, as we saw even on the last series when we got to see Soldress with the Jet. It's just like, if you put your dealers in a map where they're comfortable, it can be pretty much game over for the other team. And I think the team that has to prove themselves is TSM. I know you say it's kind of the dark horse for what is going to be the mid-season, and it is. They only got 2 wins against the teams that were a lot lower to them. So I like them individually. I'm just wondering if they had enough time to get everything ready.
Well, it'd be cool to see what they've cooked up. I mean, you mentioned duelists and how important they are on this map. So the question may also be, are we going to see some Yoru? You know, this could be the chance for those of you who are the double dualies, a little bit of double dualies, a little bit of teleporting into the back site, creating some chaos. I mean, I know there's people at home who are, you know, hoping that maybe we'd see it on Breeze, but you know, this may be the map. We don't know what TSM are going to play. We haven't seen them play this map before with this new lineup, so who knows what they could break out. I wouldn't put it past Poise to come out with something a little cheeky like that.
Okay. And something I want to say about that Yoru is that I stay with some words that I heard from Ethan from Energy, saying that if you're going to put a player in the Yoru, it can't be just the star duelist for no reason. It can be a guy that has to have a pretty good understanding of how the map is going to play out, what the strategy is going to look like, because you can have a lot of map control with the Yoru. But I mean, we jump into the agent select, and guess what? There's no Yoru to be seen, but there are new compositions since the last time that we saw YFP and TSM. The Geckos are being brought up, and I love to see a Gecko, Roy.
Yeah, I mean, the Gecko Sky is actually incredibly strong because they have the super flash combos where they can like double flash out of anything. And this map is so explosive, right? Like you can pop out of showers, you can pop out of shore, like almost every choke point that you have available to you on the attack side allows you to like explode. And there's just so much stall that you kind of need that explosiveness. And that's where the Gecko and the Sky really come in. They are able to easily kind of brute force any sort of stall that's happening on the map, especially with Raze, who can like, you know, get the elevation and get the space for the team.
Definitely agree. And I mean, this comp is something where you tend to see a lot of set plays, a lot of coordinated team play, a lot of aggression, especially on the CT side. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, with these guys not having as much time, YFP with their new roster to cook, right, so to speak. You know, how much will they have? How deep will their playbook be on this map? What kind of stuff are we going to see? You know, maybe we'll see some on the fly stuff. Maybe Jake will come in and say, you know, hey, here's what I learned up in Cloud9. Let's try this out, right? But you know, I think either way, this is going to be a scrappy match. It could go either way.
Yeah, it could go either way with the same compositions, with the same changes, and the team's still trying to adapt and get a groove, especially on a mid-season that is a little unforgiving. But to see who's going to take this map number 1 of Bind, we send it to the casters. And Vance and Lemon, when does TSM play?
I'm checking.
Right now!
Right now! Let's go!
TSM's playing! Woo! Wait, why did I just change my voice like that?
You want to beat me so bad, but it's okay. YFP want to beat TSM so bad because YFP barely missed out on relegation. They won overthinking, man. They stayed in the split. They're in the mid-season cup, and they made these huge changes where you were telling me, you were hyping up Jake to me. So I'm sat. I'm waiting.
And YFP also wants to be TSM in this match because it's a mirror matchup, right? So I'm loving that there's a lot of these. I mean, Roy mentioned on the desk, 7 had to play some different roles going into this mid-season cup or even at this stage, having to play more support roles. Some Sentinels play, but mostly now playing initiator to support now a new star that you want to try to use in Sim to be the one fragging out for the team. And it seems to be very similar in the eyes of YFP as well, because if you look at Will, usually you think of him playing as a Jet, you think of him playing as a Raze, but you want to give the responsibility for Penny. So Will also has to go through different changes, playing now initiator. And whilst we're looking at Jake, usually a controller player, well, he is playing it, but not under Brimstone and as a Viper. So when you're talking about it as a core, TSM's been playing with this roster for such a long time that they have that synergy. YFP, they had to figure this out in the last week of how they're going to play this game. And hopefully it pans out for them as they're fighting for control on YFP side on Sens.
Jesus, already combining the Gecko Flash with the Sky Flash, just hoping to cause a stir in Hookah already, but this is a lot of aggression already for TSM, who've made their way through U-Haul into A. And, well, YFP's rotations are coming through Heaven's side, and Wingman's got a plan so TSM can keep their focus forward. And then the lurk from Poise will be around mid. YFP, it's just like a pain train. They're following behind each other. And TSM, or Sim, with the satchel to try and mess up whoever would be pushing there. TSM now getting pushed. A Proto loses in showers. And YFP has surged in, just playing around the smokes, and TSM trying to hold their ground, and they're losing every single gunfight, despite being so comfortable on A, getting to plant for free. It's a flawless first round for this new roster of YFP.
So when we asked the question, do they look synergized? Answer, yes. So they did such a good job to like make sure that they control towards the sands and even dog down. What that does, it actually keeps Poise kind of guessing that there's probably going to be some flanks going through. So what happens after? YFP groups up. They have to refresh off the Dizzy. So they're isolating and also flooding back towards the back site. So what does that do? It forces GMD to throw his molly even earlier to not be able to play the delay for TSM. And they also have players playing all the way back, so they can't really fight in a forward position to help those players that were stuck inside that site. So YFP, great control of the map to start things off on that pistol round. And now they start off with a very, very strong bonus or anti-eco rather. And look at them move. They're fighting here through.
Ew, this is gonna be so gross. What a flash from Will! Oh my god! Wait, Will's not even there. Wait.
Seven.
Seven. That's the one. It's got to be one of them, right? So TSM.
Yeah. Mirror matchup. Sometimes it does get confusing.
Oh my god!
It's there for those kills.
His will not be denied. Holy cow, what a hold and what a scramble in showers already. Once I figured out who's the Gecko, but either way, 7 was huge. Didn't end up winning them the round, though.
Yeah, so that's the beauty of what Roy was mentioning when we were previewing the previous match. And by the way, I'm giving a lot of praise to Roy, but also very happy to see Psycho back in a suit on the analyst says. Good to see you, Don. Anyways, this type of play that Roy's been talking about on Lotus previously when we were talking about the other game, that he would love to see a Gecko in a breach just for that double flash. So even if you have a player that's playing anti-flash staring into the wall, that Gecko is still going to hit you no matter what. So it allows for you to get that type of opener that you had for TSM and hopefully just get a plant down so you get the economy coming through. But YFP on a bonus are still once again trying to fight and take the matter into their own hands very aggressively to start things off here on long B, but it's a stalemate and they also lose their Dizzy at the beginning. Will threw it a little bit too deep instead of throwing it high in the air to make sure he get pings here towards the fountain. So that's, again, that one piece of utility that they're going to have even less in their bonus round this time around for YFP.
And I wonder if that's why Thief is adjusting his positioning, knowing that a Gecko Flash or the Dizzy could be what enters a site. And he doesn't want to have a, he wants to play anti-flash in that moment. So TSM just tapping orb, not knowing really the numbers on the other side. Now you dog in, you've already checked elbow and all the way at the back site. And here's the teleport coming from Hookah. YFP winning against a Proto. This is going to be a pinch and TSM need to move forward and at least win on the front. That's why Sim feels like he has to take this aggressive angle in the smoke. TSM at least recover the spike and gets it planted. YFP are smoked off too, so that's why they couldn't react immediately. But Poise locks in and Physic wins the engagement. There's the flash and the re-entry for YFP, who have gone now another flawless round.
Yeah, that's 2 flawless out of 3 rounds for YFP, so money is oozing right now, especially winning and converting the bonus round for YFP. Free upgrades, less to buy. They're just going to buy util in the next round, so potentially here they might be at a 4-5-0 round unless TSM could hopefully get more plants or orbs so they could pivot things around into an ult round in round number 5. But I gotta say, I don't like that play from Sim pushing towards that spawn. There's an idea behind it because they heard all the TPs that came through, so they thought that they had a window and an opportunity to fight towards the spawn. But that's where Poise didn't have a flash to follow up. You didn't have a Dizzy from 7. I mean, 7 had it, but he's too far away to flash for Sim to fight towards the spawn. And you're just trying to do hero plays that get punished for it, and it leaves everybody else isolated at that point. So you're scrambling now for TSM in this first map of Bind. Potentially here at this point too. Yeah, look at that.
The convergence and Kind of got cross-eyed seeing which target Penny really wanted, but cool angle nonetheless. Rim Molly to slow it down. Wingman already on the plant. TSM focused here on the half buy. Hopefully have a successful plant or post plant in their favor. Deciding to now check out mid and spread around as YFP. They have the better rifles. They have better range. It's an early thrash from Will after the 3K of on round 2.
It's a good turning point, though. They have Molly for pulse plant this time around. They're delaying long enough. They have also a counter thrash to work with as you're flooding back for YFP. Big winning conditions now for TSM.
Now counter thrash this time from 7, and Wingman gets taken off the spike. YFP won't be flawless. But a 4v1 just needs to stop the defuse, and a Proto clutches it!
That was close.
Alex Protopapas with the Sheriff. Can't discount him when this man has a Sheriff. Surprisingly enough, is not using the box crosshair, which he was known for. But holy crap, that was not the type of winning condition that I was trying to explain for TSM at that point. But he got it done. The molly onto the ground and the lineups. When you have a Sheriff to collat the way that you did, I mean, look at this. The Zippo clutch, the Zippo replay. It's so nice. Bring the heat. And also giving a chance now for TSM to fight back on such a lower buy that they had. It resets everything here.
Sim's like, wait a minute. I don't want that smoke. Almost satcheled in right into the loving arms of Thief. Took some damage. Either way, you just hear the amount of stomping going on. TSM giving up on showers there, but also a Proto watching the cross from A-Shore just in case YFP were feeling cheeky and a little confident after taking 3 rounds in a row at the beginning.
They have the money to work with because of that round by a Proto. And on top of that, a pit almost at the ready. But you can definitely see here for TSM, they want to make sure that you're bringing and cycling the Thrash as soon as possible. Pretty much the winning condition on a map like Bind, which is why we're seeing so many of these mirror comps. It's so good for stall. It's so good for takes. It's so good for floods. It's complete for a map like Bind when you have teleporters that could also come into play.
A dog from showers, smokes all over. At least TSM have their half of the field, but an orbital strike from Thief to prevent the plant. And TSM, now they have to scramble through U-Haul. And they come out on top. Wingman will not get the plant thanks to the snake bite of Jake. Still prevention after prevention. Successfully executed, but YFP swing off of it and leave a Proto in poise to defend the post plant.
Line up Larry.
Proto. Yeah, line up Larry. A Proto on the boxes. Snake bite just to make sure he placed it right. And a Proto. Can't depend on that anymore. But he's clutched up before. Spike tapped, and Jake is better. YFP with 4.
And that's why you're happy for YFP that you still have Jake. Oh, bringing a little bit of VCT flair into Challengers, shooting bodies when he's winning the 1v1s. But yeah, definitely as a silver lining and as a secure point, last line of defense being Jake, the latest addition to YFP. You can definitely count on him to be able to win these clutch situations, these one-on-ones, and also just winning regular duels. It may look like he might have not be in that fitting position with Cloud9 in the past, but he's also that type of player that's been grinding through the tier 2 scene for the longest time and has been owning the tier 2 scene for the longest time, which is why he was scouted and picked up in the first place. So in these situations, you cannot count him out, and it resets TSM back into an eco.
Just someone who can deal with these high stakes, high stress situations in a single limb bracket like this. TSM on there, and I feel like they lead with a lot of confidence too. Already trying to set up B long, but then the snake bites and all types of utils slowing them down. Cutting noise. Oh, you hear the dog v dog action. Another snake bite to slow it down. Oh, Jake is caught, and there's the gecko flash from Will to back him up, but TSM get caught. Ooh. Oh, and it's a scrap, and TSM were cut off by the Viper wall, but they still want to push past it. Will disengage to get some reinforcements to help him out.
The beauty of playing anti-flashes to make sure that you can punish the aggression coming out. Great plat coming through. Winnable condition now once again for TSM with the lower buy.
And the Proto hit. Just playing on the outside of it too. Steve's starting to download that there is no Viper here, and just runs into the head of 7 with the pistol. Good night, Poised. And YFP continue the streak.
Shame. I love explosions.
That was so good for TSM to start things off when you punish the over-aggression coming out from YFP when they were trying to make a play through a flash throughout their own wall. But for Thief to be able to steal those 2 kills, oh dude, I just did a 100 Thieves pun. But it doesn't matter. For Thief to actually get those last 2 kills where he shouldn't have, that should have been a trade. And somehow a pit still came up. They had the perfect angles to try to fight around those that were going to play around that pit. Right here, he's decayed down to 15 HP. Yet they can't trade it out or even get one single bullet in the chest. The gun, the Vandal, I think that was poised or something, was right in the chest of his opponent and yet didn't click on time, didn't react on time for a Thief to get those kills. And that calls a super early timeout coming out from Faded. Understanding here that I think this is one of those timeouts where you just need to call the vibes of let's calm down. Well, I know we're playing mid-season cup. This is single elimination, and YFP is starting to run away with this where we still get our plants, right? We get our plants. The gameplay to get the lineups is working out for TSM, but any type of stall in front of those lineups is not working out for TSM because we're doing individual plays and pushing out where we're not supposed to. So set up those crossfires, make sure those funnies are coming through, and the rest of it is going to be Gucci pretty much for TSM because they have the lineups. They're able to keep those players, important players, alive in these post-plan situations, just not the ones that have to stall with their guns is what I'm trying to say.
And TSM trusted in that pit. Like, who expects the defender to cross from one side of the pit all the way to the other? Now the Seekers gonna be shot down. TSM ain't getting much. The showstopper shut down too. TSM, this whole timeout was about this plan. 2 ults neutralized, and YFP at a distance. Lose out on that. TSM have a leg up, and they can't even get set up. GMD takes down Penny. Spike still down. And YFP have 1 lurker left, and it's Jake, who has the pit too. And he's not going to check the corner, so TSM with a desperate round to win there.
And when you need somebody to step up to their plate, GMD will definitely do it here as a fragger for the team. Not IGLing anymore since Poise joined the roster, and also Nature was probably the one calling for TSM with the previous roster on top of that. So this unlocks GMD to give him a chance to just turn away that 180 turn away from a flash to still get the 3rd kill. You know that this man still has a lot of firing potential under his belt and could carry the team when they need to. So 2 heroic plays, 1 round from Proto, 1 round from Gimo, which gives a chance here for TSM to score these 2 rounds. But man, are they fighting for these rounds for TSM. And you're definitely seeing at the beginning of these rounds, continuous flashes coming through, aggressive positions coming out from YFP. They're continuing to not allow TSM to really set up for very fast hits as a team. You're wasting a lot of that util before, which they don't have too much on the pulse plan, at least outside of the lineups for TSM. So good control still for YFP.
For TSM to win that round after the amount of ults that were expended from both sides, and now 1 defender removed from A, from A. It's TSM at the spike, very leaning towards B, but they can easily take the teleporter. Now with that lurk from behind, that's tough. This is YFP who extended out of A and really can just stay comfortable. They know B is open, so they're not A, they're obviously at somewhere else, but how does YFP want to cross that?
Yeah, at this point, they're just trying to see if they can hear people rotating across here for YFP and catch some players, and same thing TSM is doing in his pulse plan. So finally, things are starting to reset a bit here. TSM's really finding their footing after the timeout. You're starting to see this becoming a little bit more clear and clean how they're hitting the sights.
Formation for 7 through all the smokes, managing to bite someone there at the back. TSM just trying to stay cool in hookah. Having Wingman be a distraction here on the left. Penny will bite on the bait and gets flashed up. Huge play out of 7. And Sim and GMD to clean up.
Yeah, so 2 rounds in a row now for TSM off the back of how GMD was opening up towards the A side. But yeah, great control of what they did here after they took possession of the site, keeping Poise behind. And I'm pretty sure Poise stayed behind because he probably didn't have any more util to help the team out enter towards the site. So he's the flank watcher, and that's pretty much how you're seeing a lot of these teams play with this comp right now when, you know, you don't have refreshed smokes anymore. So you're basically just being the anchor, being the sentinel player, quote unquote, watching and getting information on these lurks. So very well done. Gun round coming through, aggressive to look out towards short. And look at this pivot from TSM. Fast tempo out of showers just to answer back.
Yeah, and YFP were sniffing out A short, but the surge is coming from showers. Sim with first blood traded. YFP respecting the entry, trying to wrap around back. GMD in trouble, and so is a Proto. And there's no answer for TSM. Now Thresh, round 2 for Will, managing to pick it up.
Oh, this is
gonna
so
clear
tough.
U-Haul for it. And GMD, I think, stayed hidden in that moment. I'm not sure. Either way, Physic cleans up 2. And TSM in a 1v4. Spike planted.
Not happening.
Yeah, but a Proto was cool with it. Now he's gonna.
Yeah,
okay, fine.
not when it's not planted for him. There's no way. I mean, that's why I was mentioning it was so scuffed, because those 2 players that were alive still, I think that was GMD and 7 inside the site, right? They planned it for heaven, for spawn, so that they could try to fight out towards that area. So their goal is that they had to win those fights on the rotators towards spawn, because they knew they lost control of lineups anyways from short A. So they had to stay alive so that Poise could actually activate his flank back from showers so they could do a double backstab. But with them instantly dying, there's just no way there for Poise. That's one of those audible calls that you're trying to do in the heat of the moment, and you're hoping that it works out. But there's just too much good util from YFP, especially with the thrash that was available. But thankfully, money's still good for TSM. They have an op in the hands of Sim. They're trying to leverage that for an early pick towards B main. But B-Long is now covered up by the sussy ult.
That is a sussy ult. I'm glad you said it. But also no orb. One less orb for TSM to have. So
as well.
Will be going through hookah, using the dog first, checking left corner and Physic. Putting some shots on. You spot a second player now from B towards elbow. And TSM trying their hands at A. They sold a fake at B. You get hit by a lot of damage from that paint shell. Great throw by Penny. But now you don't have smokes to kind of cut off and make this site very safe to plant if you're TSM. You can always depend on Wingman, sure, but Gecko Flash gets shut down there by Will. And it's a stalemate. No one checked the corner.
I'll take it.
And Will has Penny's back in that moment.
No.
Will brings the gun up. He's so clean with
30
it.
seconds left.
And Poised and Sim. Oh, that's a horrible place to have the spike down at.
Yeah, it's another round that will not go to TSM, especially that they have an op. Unless Sim's able to pick up a rifle behind so he can try to trade with Poise. They're forced to play contact because they don't want to give away their position. They're trying to play the surprise factor there, so they never flash. But Will, man, no matter what agent he plays, this time around with the Gecko, he could still shoot. And that's the positive thing and the positive aspect of YFP. Despite them not having enough time to work as a group, as a core, or as a team, they still have fragging capabilities with Will and Jake in the roster. But that said, you saw the idea from TSM. They never pulled the Viper Wall up on that short A because the winning con was trying to have Sim get a pick from somebody peeking from triple. You needed to use a little bit more util, take control of U-Haul so they could try to swing out on that right side. But TSM just left that, never checking it. And it forced 2 kills. And allowing Will to get the 4K in the end. So that, not good.
Another hookah approach from TSM. Oh, but Physic finally gets punished. He's been so good at just laying back, and YFP wanted to crunch this before it even developed into hookah. And what a pinch out of YFP in that moment, and they have the spike down. This map feels like it's gonna go by very quick, just based on the pace and based on how good YFP are playing.
Too good and too clean, especially with this mixed buy that TSM had in this round. Just trying to keep the economy somewhat evened out. I mean, a Proto goes with a rifle buy that probably will be a call for him to save at this point because he will not buy with the rest, not be able to buy with the rest of the team. But yeah, again, the control continues out for YFP. Spike is drop out in the open for the second time in a row. There's nothing you can really do to try to get this back unless Control gets his flank. I mean, this timing off the wall. flash too. This is actually really good for Protopapas.
Oh, Jake just ran by. Oh, and Poise wasn't good enough of a distraction. Had him looking, but the timing not on the Proto side. Now you got the high-low.
This time a little bit more of a diagonal angle so that he wouldn't get lined up the way that they did against a Proto with the Sheriff in the first place. But yeah, that, again, continuously good, aggressive control from YFP on a defense is not allowing TSM to get any type of openers. Again, if you're trying for TSM when you have ops, you're trying to punish some players with overpeaks and whatnot, this is currently not happening so far for YFP because they have so much utility to follow behind those aggressive peaks that are currently doing. So this is tough here for TSM. Salvaging this last round could be pretty decent though, because you're still seeing a lot of defensive rounds going into the favor of the team when you're running this type of composition. So now it's a death ball for them, 2 ults to work with that could open up the A site quite easily. And you're hoping for GMD that he doesn't have to use his orbital strike right away, because this is orbital strike and 3 mollies to delay towards this A side.
Setup is starting. Who was that? Sim seeing ghosts over there, but TSM, the split push from Showers and main 7 with first blood, showstopper, and the orbital strike from GMD flushes out the rats from the sewer. YFP nowhere to be found. They try to re-engage with physics seekers, at least knowing how close TSM are. They gotta clear U-Haul. Poise versus Jake on the lurk.
Huge.
What a lineup there by Poise.
That's a win now.
You're calling it.
It's too good. At this point, they gain too much space towards the spawn. They have perfect crossfire setups. They have delays off the snake bite.
I just want to see if you curse it.
Nah,
Okay.
I won't. I'm the best. No, why am I saying that? What I said out of the gas. I didn't mean to say that. Big round for TSM.
Bro thinks he's on the team.
Exactly.
Switching sides.
All right, well, at least 4 rounds for TSM to salvage that one and towards the end. And when we talked about them needing those ults to delay on the pulse plants, they did a great job using those ults to gain space too, just to make sure that nobody could really flood back out after it. Because for YFP, they instantly popped their own ults to try to answer back, and they gained no space out of what they used. So they were stuck towards the spawn. The biggest thing was that fight on the flank that was won by Poised, and these are great salvage rounds in the end by TSM. Again, it took 2 heroic plays and a timeout to calm the situation for TSM to see good results towards the end. And now we'll see now on the defender side if they could do something on their end. But for YFP, they have 2 ghosts to work for long range fights, and that's off your 2 fraggers that just joined the team, and then the rest with util and armor to trade it off. So a tough feat for TSM to try to anchor towards the A side to start, especially when it's their weak side with only 2 players.
Penny managing to get into U-Haul. Lots of good cover for YFP to get into position. TSM going to hold from Showers. Rotation's already coming for TSM from B. The plan has already happened. YFP in a good place now in a 5v5, and even wrapping around Showers is Will and Jake. TSM could be crunched on multiple sides, but it all depends on how the engagement goes. GMD, right click classic, could at least take one for their own, and Jake will check in. Too much panic comes out of GMD. Sim with 2 makes up for it. 3 versus 3.
No, he hit the
No! The stupid sign or whatever that was.
I hit the lamp on the top.
Oh, the lamp.
That's so unlucky. But also, again, the discipline that Jake has, right? So the first time that he tried to clear off a retake flank in that first half and doesn't check the corner, he gets picked off. This time he's like, hey, it ain't gonna happen again. Fool me once. Clears every single corner going back towards Showers, where GMD thought he had that one and done to not allow this split to happen back on the pulse plant for YFP. And that's another clean pistol round that comes out from the, I wouldn't necessarily say the underdog this time around with YFP. I like to say it at least when it comes down to the amount of prep that they have versus TSM, but they definitely have the firepower and the chemistry here.
That's the stim beacon and charge, waving the flag, but now it's the white flag. The TSM not going to commit any further than that, but they're happy with the 2 picks. You've weakened YFP to a pretty dire state, and hey, TSM being proactive in that moment is big.
Yep. And at least at that point too, when the plan is going to happen towards this B site, I wouldn't be surprised if TSM just runs down and picks up those rifles and then TPs, because now they could just run quickly, go through the TP, fight for trades, and still have rifles to trade with, and plenty of time to do it after the post plan, especially after this dog that gets hurt here by Poise and Elbow. Look at GMD already walking forward for this rifle, but they're not going to pick up 2.
Poise is under pressure though, and the smoke is cutting him off from his fellow friends. Penny gonna win that pretty easily, and he's got the nade to keep harassing this TSM backline, and the spike is planted. YFP have all the space in the world, and they got smokes up. Good luck to TSM when they don't have flashes. They only got an SMG and a sheriff, and not really much hope after that.
Yeah.
GMD, at least they don't know where he is.
I was going to mention the opposite. I thought that they wouldn't have that space. That audible call that came out there from Physic was, hey, let's plant for a spawn, because they just flooded out of showers, so they might not have any players playing towards that spawn, so let's fight in that area.
Down you go.
Yet, great rotates coming through from TSM. Everybody went out towards the spawn, but unfortunately no util to come through, and they ran through Jake's snake bite on that ground, which just melted everybody through vulnerabilities. Could have been a different story though if they potentially still had more util to fight back the way that they did. Especially here, Poise decided to go for a peek when he had 3 players behind with him that they could potentially trade the person that's trying to walk out towards the spawn, and you didn't give a chance here for TSM to set up for those punishes. So a great way for YFP to take advantage of the missteps and the mispositioning from TSM, despite losing 2 players in the anti-eco.
Just want to say how much better YFP look. Never mind, they got first blooded. But as the team, since their roster changes, YFP are looking like such a more confident team, and confidence is everything in Valorant on how you approach these engagements. And TSM have cut them down to 3 though.
And Will's low.
Will's low, and at least he's in U-Haul. He's got some shelter to work with, but
And a heal.
that's important. Nice flash out of 7, and YFP tried to back each other up, but Sim is different. So TSM trying to close the gap.
Yep, everything just stays along course. You lost Fist around. You couldn't do any type of like crazy trap plays on your eco. So now your economy's right, and these are clean shots to get the first blood. Yes, although we got instantly traded, they still had great positionings right after that, and anchored their positions against the bonus of YFP. So that still stays all to plan. But I mean, even if I look at this, because of the 2 kills that they got with classics only on that second round for TSM, this actually renders a pretty broken buy for YFP in this round number 4. They have half shields, they have 2 hero rifles, and Sim's pushing down.
Jesus, what is happening? Bit of a whip. I think he got flashed up too, so Sim couldn't connect on the showstopper, but a proto connects on some heads, and that's all TSM needed.
And Aproto just needed his opponents to face him, right? Shooting in the back a little bit difficult, but face-to-face, easy shots, all right? It's just Aproto things. Or it's just Valorant things also at the same time. But yeah, as we were praising YFP on how aggressive they were on the defensive half, it really feels that TSM is doing the same thing, and you just saw proof that showstopper sometimes is a cosmetic there. But great 2 shots coming out from Aproto, and now they're able to force out a very early op from TSM, which is not something that YFP did. Back towards Sands too, and there's 2 players walking up there.
With the op and the flash, and well,
beautiful.
Guess it's easier with the op than the showstopper, but they'll do it again. They won't even get punished. Now the dog, Physic at least is B-long. Throwing out both flashes. Got Sim shaking in his boots. Yeah. Whatever shoes Braze wears.
And they've lost Penny, right? So you can't really satchel out of the site anymore. So, and they know that the op's towards B, and it's locking down towards the B long. So there is no way you could really split towards the B side. So I love this. The audible from YFP to going back, and Poise also as the IGL for TSM knows that. So he's rotated all the way up towards A heaven already. So they have to move in close, get seekers once they're inside sight to see where these players could be.
Oh, the molly to try and stop Wingman?
It will. It's down.
Yeah, huge. I'm loving 7 on Gecko today. And Poise takes some shots through the smoke. For all that fire and the flames, YFP are still trying to get the plan with the pit from Jake. It's a lot of good protection here. They just gotta be aware of how TSM are gonna try and cut through it, and Poise can't make his way through the pit. Now the spike is planted in the pit, and TSM are going to decide to save the op and the Vandal.
Yeah, I have a small question mark, unfortunately, from Seven running through the smoke to try to deny the wingman plant when there was already utility being placed on the defensive side to delay and deny that plant already. I know a snakebite went down. Maybe the second lineup missed. I'm pretty sure GMD was there to try to do like a mulli lineup, but maybe they were afraid that it wasn't going to take fast enough for the spike plant to be denied, so Seven felt like he had to make a play. And because of that, he gets punished, and they lose a full control of triple backside in that area, allowing YFP to get the pit back up. And it doesn't allow TSM to have a clean retake in the end after losing players in offhand situations after losing those two first players.
Oh, I just wanted to shoot so bad. Thank you. Thank you, Santa. Thank you.
And there goes what you really wanted for Christmas.
Oh, that was so satisfying. It's like we get the X-ray, but they don't. But it's like, come on, someone nudge him. Do it. Timeout for YFP. I get to finish my list to Santa.
Yeah, I mean, my wish for Santa is hoping that for TSM that even this is a timeout being picked by YFP, Fade is calling the right things here to once again calm the situation as to see how they're currently playing the map. Because at first, getting aggressive the way that they did, even though they lost pistol and they got their money right, things worked out in their favor. But as soon as they start forcing out the op and getting that first blood, everything after that didn't really come down into their favor because YFP are doing a great job using teleports to avoid the op at the same time. Now you just need your anchored players, the ones that are not playing with the op, to be in better positions or find better ways to stall and not use their bodies instantly because they could potentially do something once again still with the op.
Well, 2 more rounds before YFP take map 1. And this is, you were right to hype up YFP after these roster changes, because usually when a team has roster changes, there's a lot of comfortability issues. There's not a lot of creativity in the planning. You know, you're just starting from square one, but YFP are a whole different team. And oh man, TSM barely got out of that. Sim will readjust, missed that shot. You smell something. Oh, you got Flash trying to get back to the corner, man. Sim is playing with fire right now, and YFP is playing with a planted spike and a lot of smoke to try and carve through. Sim will go around it, see if he can wrap with the op and get the pick he's been trying to get. There we go. 2 on the other side though for YFP, and the Gecko Flash in the swing. It's beautiful out of 7. And Physics just has to play it. A post plan gets one, but not the others. And TSM try to claw their way back.
And there you go. Try to find ways to give a chance for Sim to activate with the op. Not being too antsy and try to say, hey, we're currently losing sites. Let me try to get my 1 or 2 so that hopefully the ones retaking the site could actually, you know, do something while I've given my life away. This time there was a lot more controlled for TSM. They played it back towards the spawn. You saw Jake holding the orb the whole time, trying to see somebody run through that smoke. But as nobody did it, it allowed here for Sim to get into position and get a perfect op kill. And everybody else is caught out in the open after the smoke goes down, which allows a beautiful double flash to happen and for TSM to get the round. So that is the type of thing that you want to see from TSM after how they're playing around this offensive half, especially in the post plans.
A lot more of a slower approach from YFP compared to just how fast this game has gone on. Juggle Peak and Gecko Flash checking out Hookah. No shots even coming from the defenders, but one shot could be coming out of Sim, and Jake. The swing just caught him off guard. First blood for YFP and Showers Control. They're going to make the call that A is the hit. And Poise only has 1 flash left to slow this down.
Yeah. But despite the number disadvantage they currently have here, they still have ults for TSM. So giving up sight is fine. Getting information at the last minute mark. Now it's going to see Seekers close to Showers. Know the hit's coming now. Great delays coming out from the Molly from GMD. Now this is double delays because this is orbital strike off the plant.
There's that orbital strike from GMD, and Penny is gone. YFP have the op still too, and with all the smokes, how do you find where you are? Proto, wait, just the elbow of the other Viper. The showers is smoked off. Thrash
got him.
Will lock someone in the corner. Thief in trouble. The fuse spike will be tapped, forcing YFP to try and engage off of this. YFP are still getting the picks, and the defuse gets canceled. TSM, it's all up to 7, and the molly is still active. A lot of time being wasted. Spike tapped, headshot on the Physic, one to his left and his right. Which side does he pick? And it's a thrifty for YFP.
Picked the right side, but couldn't pull his weapon out. But that molly was supposed to be thrown into the A cubby to actually land on the one that was detained in the corner, which I'm pretty sure was Jake as that brimstone. Oh, sorry, Thief as the brimstone in that corner. Look at it. Oh, look at the land right in front of the boxes. And that made it a lot more difficult here for TSM to not be able to play the retake because they're playing at a disadvantage for everything after that. And now here's the last timeout coming out from TSM. And with the thrifty that was won by YFP, I don't think that economy is going to be the best right now for TSM. Even if they have a decent buy this time around, you're looking at the long game here for YFP. You have 5 chances on your end. You give a chance for TSM to maybe win a round, but you're going to also have an opportunity to snowball economy and ults in your favor at map point. So TSM, now you can't throw any mistakes anymore. You can't make a single mistake in the next 5 rounds, especially when you're winning, if you're able to win rounds rather at that point, because losing more than 2 players every single round, that's going to hit into your own economy as well. And that's something that you can't really afford now on the camp of the defender side. And look at Will, he's 1 away from an ult as well. So as I talk about the ult economy that could be going into your favor, they got Showstopper ready. They're 1 away from Seekers. They're 1 away from Thrash with a plant. This is not a good look for TSM right now at facing map point for YFP.
Well, a great look out of YFP, at least, with just this is their map pick, and what a commanding start. To just be this good with a roster this brand new. A lot of questions from the analysts, but an answer that YFP coming in like a storm, destroying a Proto and the Boombot at the back. This site is theirs. They still have to clear elbow. There's someone back there. They smoked it off. They'll worry about it in a second. And TSM already trying to infiltrate back in off of paint shells. Have 1 flash left. The Seekers from Physic will also distract TSM as Thrash will clear out the left elbow side and not get... Oh, it did? I thought he shot it for sure, but TSM will get the better trades out of that. 2 versus 1. GMD can't get it done. YFP, what a map 1 out of them.
And of course, it's going to be Jake, the one that gets the last kill too, to allow YFP to win that first map. How happy are we to see Will and Jake still be able to find opportunities to frag out and have such a dominant first map there against TSM? And as I mentioned before, 5 chances and how close you are to ults, they got them all in 1 round. So Penny already had his Showstopper. They got the Thrash off a plant, and then they got the Seekers just before the plant, which would have been so difficult there. You saw it towards the end, how difficult it was for TSM to come back and retake that round and try to at least salvage something. And this was a map, though, at least thankfully picked by YFP. It was, a map that wasn't really seen by TSM, and they thought that they had a good read or at least a good strat after seeing a lot of pro play into this type of composition that seems to be the default one that we currently see for Bind. But unfortunately, it wasn't for them today.
I like that Jake is in Valorant mode. He's got his jersey. He's got his secret lab chair. He's locked in. And so are the rest of YFP. But how will they fare on TSM's map pick? Lotus is coming up next. But before that break, and the desk.